Welcome to the How to Health podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marbus, and today I'm so honored to have Dr. Koushik Reddy. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me, Lori. How are you?
Very good. And, I just did a little bit about you, Dr. Reddy. I know you're an interventional cardiologist. You're the director of actually interventional cardiology at the VA in Tampa. That's the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital, which is one of my favorite populations because I too am a vet. So thank you for servicing our men and women who've served our country. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Absolutely. I have a close connection with the VA. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you kind of have a really cool story, and we're going to get into that. But you're also a nutritional educator or liaison for the Whole Health program, which is a new program at the VA. And it's across the United States. There's a few VAs that are participating. So we'll get into that too. But first, I want to know a little bit about Dr. Reddy. And why did you even want to become a doctor?
Well, it's a long story. I was 17 years old, and in India, it's you can go to medical school after 2 years of after high school. After 12th grade, you can take an MCAT equal, and then you get into medical school. And I saw medicine as a kind of I really, very honestly, I did not know like a lifetime ambition or a personal compelling story. That was a place to be back. Mostly farming communities, and engineering and medicine were the thing to do, to have a stable life and something meaningful with your academic career. And that's how I got into medicine. I took the exam and I got in. I actually didn't get in the first time. I got in the second time. It was a tough, very competitive exam in India. And I got in. Yeah, I got in, and all these years I would tell people that I had an MD next to my name before I was 24. And
wow.
Yeah. But when if I get my age back, I would do it all over again. Because now I kind of found my passion as I got into training and I started meeting with people, interacting with human emotions and learning about disease diagnosis. And that's how I got into medicine. And yeah.
So how did you decide to become a cardiologist, and how did you get to the United States?
I got into the United States, back in the day, I graduated medical school end of 94, early 95. And the social situation in India was very different back then than it is now. From an economic point of view, then I said, it's probably better for me to go out of India for some time for training and come back. And then I came here. I met my wife during training, and in a way, America became second home. And I've been here now since '95. And I trained at Winthrop Hospital in Long Island, Mineola for cardiology. And getting into cardiology was, again, no glory. During my residency training, I gave it my best to all areas of medicine. And when it came to cardiology, the thought process was natural. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted to do. I want to do something that comes natural. Yes, if I put my time and effort to it, I probably will be good at anything in medicine I want to be. But that's not what I want to do. I want to do something that comes naturally, so I enjoy doing. So cardiology came natural, and I chose cardiology. And then once I started working in the cath lab and the glory of the procedure, and treated a couple of acute MIs, and so, wow, this is pretty cool. And the dexterity of what we do in the cardiac cath lab also kind of intrigued me as to what you can do with your hands. And that's how I got into interventional cardiology. And I graduated in 2007 and came and started working at the VA ever since. And partly was affiliated for a short period of time with the university. I'm still affiliated, but I no longer work for the university. I work full-time for the VA now this is my 11th year, started just recently.
Wow. So how many years, because you had mentioned earlier about just how long it takes you to become a cardiologist, interventional cardiologist. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. Coming from India, my track into medicine is a little different from a time point of view. But if you were to train in the US by conventional track, it takes about 15 to 17 years of uninterrupted continuous training after high school to become an interventionalist, because now cardiology programs and interventional cardiology programs are getting a little longer because there's so much to learn, and procedures are so far advanced, and so the training programs are getting longer. So on average, it's anywhere between 15 to 17 years to become an interventionalist.
Wow, that's incredible. So then it took me 11 just to do family medicine, much less, the in-depth procedures that you require for you to do. So how did you find, so now we understand a little bit about your background, but you also have a passion for lifestyle medicine and whole food plant-based diet. How did that evolve from being an interventional cardiologist, the reactive,
It's one year accident. There was a day, but I want to say 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, There was a day where I did about 5 or 6 procedures, and all of them ended up being coronary interventions. And I did them, and I went to get a cup of coffee, and I came and sat at my desk, and it kind of out of nowhere, I was doing the reports, and then every single one of them was a diabetic, or a hypertensive, or slightly obese, had sleep apnea, the conventional risk factors, smoking. And from a systems point of view, as a board certified cardiologist and intervention cardiologist in practice for 7-8 years back then, I said, whoa, look, I'm doing everything myself, my system, my colleagues, we are doing everything as per the guidelines. These veterans and these patients of mine are not neglected. They are getting top of the line of contemporary medical care. Yet, they are on my table today. Yet, they are on my table needing an coronary intervention. So, is it possible that there is something fundamentally wrong with the way I am treating coronary disease? Because my treatment is obviously not working. Because if you're a diabetic, guess what? I am treating your diabetic as best as I can. If you're hypertensive, I am following guidelines to the T. We are a full-time academic shop here. So there is no compromise in care. We do the best possible guideline-driven medical therapy. Yet, almost every patient of mine who comes there has disease. So that's when I said, whoa, I need to reinvent myself. And every direction I looked and every path I looked led to nutrition. And that's what kind of shocked me, but I was completely void of knowledge or formal training. Completely. I had no, except for telling my patients, eat healthy, go see my colleague dietitian. I had no concept of what actually nutrition meant.
And then apparently, the current dietitian's teachings were not enough either, as they were still ended up on your table, right?
The patient to dietitian, the VA has an amazing program called the MOVE program. It's a national program. They do wonderful things with patients. But when I first got into this, I just knew that there were dietitians in the hospital and there's a MOVE program, but I had no scientific knowledge as to how powerful nutrition and lifestyle can be. So during that quest of trying to reinvent myself, and my wife, Ange, and I, we woke up one Saturday, we turned the channel on, and we're just brushing teeth. And this is a true story, and I shared it with a lot of people. And it's almost like a divine intervention, if you will, is the channel goes to a local PBS. And I'm brushing my teeth. Ange and I were overhearing this man talking about, diabetes can be reversed with a very unique way of presentation. And who is this guy? So it turns out it was none other than Dr. Joel Fuhrman. And what I thought was, let me take a glimpse. Basically, I got glued to that entire program. And so he was my kind of an opening light, if you want to call it, into the science of organized clinical nutrition. Look at nutrition not as some, who can make the best recipe, but be able to explain the pathways, be able to explain the mechanisms, be able to explain the evidence, just like I do for everything in cardiology or everything in purely evidence-based clinical nutrition. He was my kind of an opening guru, and I used to call him my mentor by proxy. Eventually, again, sheer luck and accident, he and I got to know each other very well, became, good friends now. That's what he calls me. And I feel honored. And then I got introduced into the whole film of superstars in the field, including you, to him. The likes of Michael Greger, Neil Bernard, and I recently met Dean Ornish at the Lifestyle College of Medicine. So I follow their writings, and as I learn, I'm on a mission to share, because this, to me, is too powerful of an information not to be discussed. The papers of Dr. Ornish published in 1983, how come I did not know about them during my cardiology fellowship? 77% decrease in revascularization rates. So these are the questions I ask now, and I get almost like that naive, the first-year medical student, kind of a grabbing more than you can chew type of eagerness to learn medicine. Right. I feel that now, after almost 30 years after graduation, I feel like I'm learning medicine all over again.
Wow.
And I share that passion, I share that enthusiasm, and most importantly, I share that data. And I'm not selling it because I have a better recipe than the next guy. I'm selling it because I have data, just like I have with any drug that I use in my cardiovascular medicine armamentarium.
Wow. So then how did you incorporate that into your life? I mean, that's one thing to hear it, it's a whole other to live it.
Oh, that's another story. So personally, I read the data, but I was talking about it. But to be honest with you, I was not practicing it. I'm being honest with you. I'm just, I was, just doing my own thing with diet, and kind of, a young guy. I'm doing okay. I'm doing exercise. I'm doing okay. And I was not a vegetarian. Or to put it in Dr. Fuhrman's terms, I was not his nutritarian person. He would be probably disappointed to hear me say this back then. But and then one day, a week after my birthday, we were on Sarasota Beach, and my daughter, who was 11 back then, and she saw a fish being caught. I'm a photographer by hobby, and I'm taking pictures, and she sees a fish being caught to the left of us as we faced the western horizon. And to me, the photographer in me, it's a beautiful scene. And it's an awesome scene. I'm taking this black and white pictures of this young man, the whole scene, it's like a baby shark. The next thing is my daughter got very emotional, and that bothered her. And this is the kid who loved daddy's fish. When daddy cooked fish, she wanted the piece of salmon. That was they looked forward to. And then she chose to give up. She said, Dad, if this is what it takes for me to eat fish, I don't want to be a part of it. Mm. And in my mind, I said, well, something that came naturally, I want to be supportive. And I didn't say a word to her. She got all emotional and teary-eyed. I grabbed her hand. We went to the hotel room. But in my mind, I'm saying to myself, probably she's going to last a week. And she, independent of the rest of the family, she actually lasted over 1.5 years. And before I did it myself, I said, you know what, I really need to do this. Yeah, and a part to be, a partner with her, daddy's gift to her, whatever we want to call it. But once I got into it, like everything in medicine, I literally dove myself, into every single bit of scientific information. Because that's what's going to convince me, not do it because somebody else is doing it, even if it's my daughter. Right. I really need to convince myself that I'm doing it for a meaningful scientific reason, so I can connect along those lines with other, fellow human beings, friends, family, colleagues, patients. So that's how I got into the nitty-gritty details. When I tell people how broccoli works on your prostate, I can draw the mechanism now. In terms of, just like the way I can draw the mechanisms of platelet biology when I give aspirin and platelets. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I'm approaching this in my own little realm of changing myself. Mm. And gradually, I started doing experiments on it. But giving up animal products was actually easy. Giving up my chicken, giving up my fish overnight. Did not take a bite. And same thing with sugar and salt. But the biggest problem I had was with milk. The biggest problem I had was with milk. I just would get drawn to milk. I would go home. I had to have some milk in my cup of tea. I had to have my yogurt because, we in India, we have this habit of eating yogurt with rice. Every meal ended with yogurt with rice. And then I said, what, I'm taking pride in constantly winning mind over matter battle. But I found myself losing that battle when it came to milk. I said, there can't be something in here. What did I do? I went back and dug up old physiology books. And I kind of shocked, how come I don't know how to get, and then I looked at the whole casein protein becoming casomorphine. That did it for me. Whoa, is it possible that I'm at a low level, I'm actually addicted to morphine analog? Mm. When I looked at it that way, I made the connection. That's it, I'm done. I shared that story with people because to me, it's a science that did it for me, not the culture, not the religion, none of that. It's the science that did it for me. Wow, there's a scientific reason why I should stop it.
You just need the facts.
Yeah, I've seen the facts, and to me, and it's been the best thing. My personally, what did I gain out of it? I never felt the need to kind of lose weight. I've been always into kind of staying physically active, but my allergies disappeared. Mm. Yeah, for someone who grew up on a farm in India, I was told that I have dust mite allergy. When I came to Florida, and I became dependent on nasal sprays and eye drops and that kind of stuff. There were days when I scrubbed out of a procedure because of a sneezing spell. Wow. And my back started hurting that I was going to prolapse the disc one day. Oh, wow. But the way out, I would start my day sometimes with, basically nasal sprays, eye drops, and a Claritin. Yeah, but once I went completely whole food plant-based, I haven't taken a drop, I haven't taken a spray, I haven't taken a single pill.
That's awesome. That same thing happened to me. My allergies cleared up completely. Amazing. So now finding Dr. Fuhrman and your daughter, were these running parallel, or when did one happen before the other?
Finding Dr. Fuhrman actually happened almost a year before my daughter. So during that year, I was just looking at his recipes and I was listening to him. And I was kind of briefly talking to people here and there, but I never really saw the in-depth scientific value in it. Gotcha. And then close to a year and a half goes by. And then I said, oh, wow, I really need to, dive deep into this.
Gotcha.
And then a few months later, my wife and I didn't convince or try to convince or force any family member of mine, including my wife. I said, this is something so powerful and deep lifestyle. And now I'm finding with my patients, I can't force people to do it. You have to see the value, because we're talking about, in my case, 40 plus years of lifestyle, 40 years of, eating mom's chicken curry. And for me to give that up, to me, something so compelling has to come from within. I'm not going to do it just because I read a book by Dr. Fuhrman or I heard Dr. Greger's video, which are great, by the way, one of the best, speakers and writers. But that, to me, was never founded as a force enough. I really need to see the value the way I see it, and I can apply. And even my 11-year-old boy eats, broccoli and kale sometimes for breakfast with sweet potatoes.
That's a true kid. That's a true plant-based kid. So then when did you decide, you said you were sort of talking to people, when did you really go full force and start really talking to your patients regarding this?
About a year and a half to almost 2 years ago, then I talked to, when Dr. Fuhrman actually came here to town to do his book launch on the end of heart disease. That's when I met him, and then we started. Even before that, I kind of emailed him, and we borrowed one of his chapter titles, Let's Not Dig Our Graves with Knives and Forks. I think it's chapter 2 in his Eat to Live book. I said, we're going to use that as a title for a series of talks that I'm going to put together. Then I used to meet with our hospital nurses, my residency house staff, fellowship program, and the primary care doctors. And I basically conducted a whole series of lectures called, it's basically the exact same thing, How Not to Die. Not How Not to Die, but, Let's Not Dig Our Graves with Knives and Forks. Then, I'm using some of Dr. Greger's work to pass on the message. Look, guys, there's this wealth of information here.
Right.
For everything that we take, treat as a chronic disease with pills and procedures, there are alternatives, lifestyle alternatives. And so I've been doing it for about 2 years now.
Okay. So then now there's a new program, the Whole Health Program. How did that evolve? Where did that come from? This is really exciting.
Yeah, the Whole Health is a big deal for me. To me, it's truly God sent. It's a national program from the VA, and last I heard was it's heavily funded, and the VA is putting a lot of money to get this. So they chose, I believe, 18 sites across the country to launch this program, which is it's a nice diagram they created. It's a circle of life kind of thing. In the middle is me as in a provider or anybody who's connected to the VA. It could be an employee, a physician, but most importantly, our veterans. And around you, in the middle, are centered 5 or 6 core pillars of nutrition, which is one is obviously nutrition, physical activity, mindfulness, smoking cessation, sleep habits, and stress reduction. And all of these are going to be incorporated with alternative pathways like yoga, meditation, Tai Chi, and all kinds of lifestyle alternatives for pain reduction, stress reduction modalities. So when this came to our site, and we were very fortunate through our leadership, and Dr. Pekal, she's a formerly Andrew Weil trained integrative specialist, and she's our leader for Whole Health on site at Haley. And they, based on what I was already doing, they said, actually, Chief of Medicine kind of volunteered, hey, you are the best fit to do the nutrition component of this Whole Health. And I jumped at it. So starting January 1, 2018, I'll physically and metaphorically speaking, I'll be hanging my lead in the cardiac cath lab for 2 half-a-days a week to participate in Whole Health education program, to talk to providers on Thursdays and patients on Fridays about the role of nutrition and its usefulness in preventing disease.
And that's not just, you're not just teaching at your locale, right? Are you going to be teaching throughout?
That's my plan. There's a team put together for 2017 into 2018, which I was actually not aware of. So I made some connections with the team that's going on teaching nutrition. They're actually coming to our site in February of 2018.
Okay.
There's a Whole Health teaching team that I'm trying to get on board to go on the national circuit for late 2018 or 2019.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for me. Yeah.
It's incredible. So you're also looking at yoga, and you said other things, mindfulness. What other parts of the program are you guys going to be starting there at Haley in 2018?
We are actually a flagship site for this. They're of the 18 There are 5 flagship sites, and Tampa VA is one of the flagship sites. So there's a whole team being put together in all aspects, including a research team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I will know a lot more about every little detail and every little person component as we get rolling on January 1st.
That is fantastic.
My role is basically to promote whole food plant-based nutrition in preventing, treating, and potentially reversing a lot of chronic diseases that we're dealing with.
So now that this is coming into the Tampa VA, has there been any other talk from other providers interested? Are they poo-pooing it? What is the reception?
No, surprisingly, it's actually been very well received, even from day one when I started. And people who oppose have been able to talk to them. Not necessarily they're opposing it, but from a lifestyle point of view, it's including myself. When I first looked at it, wow, whole food plant-based, can you really survive on plants? Kind of questions. But when I sit down and talk to them, and people attend my lectures or even discussions, it's been extremely well received. And I'm meeting with my dietitians next Monday to come up with a comprehensive plan. So there's a kind of a unanimous, kind of a unified approach that patients are not hearing 20 different things from 4 different people, and that confuses the system and confuses our veterans. So we're meeting on Monday next week to come up with a kind of a unified plan for entire cardiovascular service. When patients come here, our message is going to be one simple message that we don't know what that is, but my goal is to push for a whole food plant-based diet.
Absolutely.
And there is precedent for that. There are hospitals already doing that across the country.
Oh.
Yeah. So I just want to bring it here and do some pilot projects in terms of outcomes. We recently found out through American Heart Association meeting last month that whole food plant-based diet will lower heart failure admissions by 42%.
Wow.
And just look at the cost savings and quality of life indices, and for everybody, it's a win-win situation for the community and the hospitals and the country as a whole.
Oh, absolutely. So then how are you presenting this to patients? What is your day-to-day conversations that you have with your individual patients? Do you have a certain way of presenting?
That is the best part of my days now, is when I meet with the veterans, because I get such a kick out of it, because people come there and I said, how do I connect with them? Now, I really need to step out of the doctor person. Yeah, because the doctor in me was never used to stepping into my patient's kitchen and asking them for detailed dietary history, meal by meal, snack by snack, drink by drink. To me, it's a learning process. But when they do share that information, how do I influence a change in them? Mm-hmm. Right? And then in the early days of doing this, nobody changed, and I was like, oh, what the heck am I doing? I must be doing something wrong. And then I realized that I am being very instructional. And I said, no, that's what I am as a doctor. Take these pills, come for this procedure, go to rehab or go to a dietitian, and life went on. So very instructional, cutthroat, 1, 2, 3, this is how you do it. But now, to connect with the fellow human being, to have them kind of even not change necessarily, but give a deep thought to change something that they did for 50, 60 years. Mm-hmm. I need to meet them not as a doctor. I need to meet them as a person who actually cares. And just like, when, for example, if to my brother said that he started smoking, I wouldn't instruct him and lecture him. I would connect him at a very deep emotional level, because I know the science of smoking. Right. So I would lecture to him. So that's the way I started doing this. I literally pull the chair. Sometimes I hold their hands and I tell them, look, this is not Dr. Reddy talking to you. This is Koushik, the human being, who is literally begging you to give my method 2 weeks. That's all I'm asking you. And then we'll take it from there, see what happens. And you be the judge. But what I am willing to bet with you is that you're going to see the change in 2 weeks. That's all I'm asking. I'm literally begging you to give my method 2 weeks, and I will provide you with all the information. And sometimes I give my cell phone number. The reason I say that I get a kick out of this is that I have had veterans call me from our public grocery store on my cell phone. I swear to God, that Dr. Reddy, I listen to you. But I'm not quite there to give up bread. Now you tell me, what bread should I buy? And I like, wow, this to me, this is such a unique social experiment for myself as to how to bring about this change. And I learned each patient encounter, each human emotion, learn how to improvise myself and how to connect with them. And I know the one best example was that there was a 80-some-year-old veteran who drove from East Coast of Florida just to find me, to give me a hug. and say thank you, because I've been on insulin for God knows how many years, and I came off of it in 3 months. So I asked him, what I needed to know. This was in the early days of me doing this. What I wanted to know, what was it that I said that connected with him? Because I want to duplicate that.
Mm-hmm.
And what he said to me, I'll never forget that. He said to me that, look, and that was the first time I saw him in my clinic. He said, this is the first time you and I met, and you are a complete stranger to me. And when I went home, the time you spent with me, the way you talked to me about nutrition, the way you showed me hope that this disease can be reversed. I went home, sat down, I thought about it. This guy that I never met, this is my first time meeting him. He's not my cardiologist for 20 years. If this strange doctor that I met for the first time shows so much caring about my health and my life, what the heck am I doing? Why am I not caring for myself? And apparently that's what motivated me. That if a stranger who met me for the first time can show so much compassion. So that kind of taught me a lot of how to approach this. To approach this as a human emotion and connect that as a lifestyle level. And be less and less instructive, but be more and more connective with the patients.
Right. Someone that showing them that you actually care, you're spending that time with them. It's
Absolutely. Because sometimes it's emotionally taxing for me to do this patient after patient after patient. It delays my round sometimes, it delays my day sometimes, but I can't walk away from this. This is my rest of my medical career.
Yeah.
And that's what, based on this experience, I kind of came up with the phrase which I put out at ACM, that as an interventional cardiologist, I have a carrot and a stick, you pick.
That's great. I'd have a carrot and a stick, you pick. That's fantastic. Well, tell us a little bit about your thought experiments. You were mentioning that earlier. Can you describe that for me?
It's another thing that I started doing this very recently, about 2 or 3 months ago. So I would do the diagnostic cats. Veterans would come to us with chest pain or what have you, and we do a heart catheterization. And I see the role for lifestyle modification. So, but I need to find a very deeply connecting spot. That how do I convert this experience of a veteran undergoing an invasive procedure under my hands? But the value in is not my invasive procedure, but the value that I can impart onto them is the value of lifestyle. So what I started doing now is that I make up a diagnosis. I said, hey, look, isn't this all made up? None of this is actually true that they have. So I make up the story that, look, you have 2 or 3 blockages, but they're not critical. That you don't need a stent yet, you don't need a bypass operation. But there are 2 or 3 new medications that I need to start that may work. And what do you think about it? And I usually do it in the confidence of the patient or whoever is attending, 1 or 2 family members. And usually the response I get is, hey, thanks, doc. Where can I pick them up? Are you going to mail them to our house, or we go out to the outpatient pharmacy to pick them up? I said, yeah, whatever you want, but I'm in the middle of a bunch of things going on. Let me go back and attend to a couple more patients. We'll talk more when I get back. So I usually, this is all pretentious. None of this is actually true. They have no blockages. Luckily, everything is fine. And I come back and I meet with the family and the patient again. And that's when I sit down, and that's when the doctor is I'm not the doctor now. I'm the lifestyle shrink now. And hey guys, I sit down and I have a conversation about, there are a lot of things we can do. You're a diabetic. I said, usually my opening line, would you believe me if I told you that there's a good chance that we can make you a non-diabetic? And usually they don't believe me. And this, what do you mean? What do you mean? So that's that's why my kind of a segue into this whole thing. So I tell them, this is how lifestyle works. There are a lot of resources. And then let's talk about, I take a notepad and I'm starting actually take a detailed notes about what they actually ate, meal recall. So when they hear about processed meats, refined carbohydrates, when I tell them, that bacon, you might want to give that up for breakfast. And then all of a sudden from patients and family members, this is again, the deep cultural issue that we have in the country, is they start asking me a question. What do you mean the eggs are bad for me? What do you mean I can't eat bacon? So that's when I stop. And this is what I say to them. And look, about an hour ago, when I tried to control your health through my instruction and my pharmaceuticals, you asked me only one question: where can I pick it up? Mm. But now, when I'm trying to put your health and your life and your outcomes into your hands and your lifestyle and your kitchen, the questions keep coming. Mm. You're questioning me constantly. Every single thing I'm saying, you're questioning the authenticity of what I'm saying. Right. And my next question I ask them on, just think about it for a second. On what planet is this normal?
Mm.
And their eyes light up like they said, holy crap, this is real. We never looked at it that way. So that's how I kind of, to put it, that's how I get them.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then all that I ask them from that day forward is that all that I'm asking you, 2 weeks, just 2 weeks of your life, give it to my approach. It's not even my approach. People have already laid that, guidance where that is very clear. Yeah, none of this is my invention. I'm just a newbie at this. I'm learning. I'm just so powerful. I'm sharing it as I learn.
Right.
So go ahead, sorry.
Where do you send them? What handout do you give to them? Is a book or what?
No, usually what I ask them to do is that, I ask them to be very simple about recipes. I said, I want you to go Google, not vegan, not vegetarian. I want you to just Google whole food plant-based diet. And if you want to sit down and watch a documentary, watch Forks Over Knives. They have recipes. They have a good website. It's a nice entry-level information. Don't even go into the science and literature and the books. Just go home, start copying those recipes, print out a 14-day recipe. And I actually have something on my desk that I just downloaded from PCRM. And that I'm going to give it as a 14-day recipe for easy, inexpensive recipe. So that way they don't get discouraged by the complexity of cooking. They don't get discouraged by the financial aspect of, buying, 4 blenders and all kinds of, crazy things. So very simple, easy to approach, 14 days. And I've had patients literally call me on 9th day. That actually, we have him back in the hospital for something else. He came off of insulin on day number 9. I still can't believe it. Yeah. And one of his complaints was that constipation, and for many, many, many years. And he calls me and says, look, I'm pooping 3 times a day now. So then after 14 days, I tell them it's your call now, because I'm not running your kitchen. Because this is such a powerful lifestyle change. It has to come from within. And if you want to go further, then I will help you.
Do you find it so amazing that we're fighting against this cultural norm with such a simple message that's so profound? It blows my mind that we even have to go through the links and the stresses and the time and all of this to send such a simple message of life-saving information. It's just food. I understand the cultural implications, but it's just funny to me. Here we are, 2 MDs. We see thousands of patients a year, and we are both enthralled with sharing this message, but we have to spend so much time and energy and emotional, currency to convince someone to change when it's so simple.
I know. That's why, I never felt so excited in my medical career about, to what I've been doing, and especially joining Whole Health. That's what I've been telling everybody through my emails. Nothing in my career ever excited me as much as my joining of Whole Health is, because to what I've been doing in the silo of my own little cardiology practice and my own individual patient encounters. Now, thanks to the National VA leadership, we have an organized program across the country that we can partner without any outside influence of, be it industry or financial forces controlling, what the VA can do to do it. And to me, it's just a unique opportunity. But I agree with you. It is, as recently as 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, American Heart, the great, amazing study came out of NYU. It's not published yet. And very, very ingenious way of looking at it. What they looked at, I think, about 400 patients who come for a heart catheterization, and said, when you come in, we're gonna look at your inflammatory markers, right? That's what we're gonna measure your CRP levels, and then we're gonna randomize you to American Heart Association diet. Very ingenious, visionary from the doctors at NYU to do this. Is one arm was American Heart Association diet, and the other arm is whole food plant-based diet. After 8 weeks, the whole food plant-based diet decreased CRP by 27%. The American Heart diet decreased it by 7%. So and again, yes, we can argue that it's a small sample size, and only of the 400 people that they screened, I believe only 100 people, agreed to consent and participate in an 8-week program. But my argument would be that is food, it's benign, has no side effects. So all the thought leaders in the cardiology community should be lined up in front of National Institute of Health, begging for millions of dollars of funding to do this study at a larger scale to put this question to rest. Instead, I hear comments like, oh, this is not to be believed yet because it's a small study. Well, the same leader should be lined up in front of NIH. And NIH, look, if a 100-patient study can show such a profound difference.
Right.
Has no side effects, and it's food.
Right. So all it is food.
Shouldn't that be the bedrock of our treatment?
Absolutely.
I'm a proceduralist. I make a living out of doing procedures. There's always going to be a need to do procedures, but the foundation of our treatment for all chronic diseases should be lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Data emerging every single day. There's emerging data.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So if you have someone who's sitting here and they're listening to you and they're like, wow, Dr. Reddy, I have heart disease. My cardiologist thinks I'm crazy if I were to go and talk to him about that. How does a patient approach their physician to say, this is what I want to do, and have the physician deal with the physician that may be antagonistic to it?
Well, what I tell, a lot of times patients ask me, a lot of our veterans have outside doctors also, and they come back and tell me, like, look, my outside cardiologist doesn't believe in this. And I said, just look, what do you got to lose? I'm not adding a pill to you. I'm not adding a procedure to you. If anything, be in close communication with me and be in close communication with your doctor and tell them, doc, look, I am measuring my blood pressure every single day like you asked me. But I read somewhere that I can take this nitrate-rich vegetables such as arugula or red beets or flax or hibiscus tea, and none of them are harmful. It's not like I'm taking some crazy mixture from some remote island that I don't know anything about. This is food that I buy at Publix, right? And that's all I'm incorporating. I cut down my salt, and all of a sudden I'm waking up with very low blood pressure numbers. And I come off my blood pressure pill. And I would be shocked if a cardiologist hears that story and says, no, you still have to stay on 3 blood pressure pills. And then there is that problem within medicine. I was one of those doctors. And when I say this, 3 or 4 vegetables and plant, there's an American Heart Association paper on this. It's not like I'm like a snake oil sales guy pulling this hibiscus tea from South India.
Right.
There's an American Heart Association paper supporting this. This can be used as an alternative to lower the pill burden. So that's what I tell people is that the way to not argue, to have a productive conversation with your provider is to empower yourself. Yeah, not an MD. I tell my patients, I don't expect you to come back in 3 months with MD next to your name and cardiology training. Learn a little about your food. Most of us know more about Monday morning football games. On Monday morning, we know more about what happened over the weekend. How come we don't know what goes into our breakfast?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I said I empower them to learn the information so you can have a reasonable, non-confrontational, non-threatening discussions with your providers.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, and I think too, they start learning, then we learn about, it's just not, we don't just go to the store and buy food. There is a whole system that brought that food to our location. And we need to understand everything we eat has a price. There's a global price, there's a local price, there's a national price, there's environmental costs, so I think we miss that big picture because we're behind this veil, we don't see what's going on. And so I think that's another thing for me, besides the health stuff, was learning everything else environmentally, which drives me even further. I mean, because we have children and we want them to have a place to live that's healthy and
absolutely. When we were at ACLM October, one of the speakers was Brenda Davies, who was a kind of pretty world-renowned nutrition expert. And one of the slides that she showed kind of left a lasting impact on me. And I came back and I researched it, and she showed a slide from one of the economist type of journals that the environmental impact of what we take for granted, that a single person goes out to a nice steak dinner, has a shrimp cocktail and a steak dinner. The environmental impact in terms of greenhouse gases is equivalent to that of driving a fuel-efficient car, one of the hybrid electric cars from Los Angeles to California.
In one meal?
In one meal of steak and shrimp cocktail dinner.
Wow.
And it's a published data, and that is in the economics and the sociology and environmental impact of it. And just today, this morning, before I set up for the interview, I was reviewing a paper are a statement from 15 or 16,000 scientists from 183 countries asking humanity in general to seriously think about at least go cut down meat consumption by 50% and the impact that it would have on greenhouse gases.
Where is that paper located? What is that paper?
I saw somewhere, I was Googling something, I saw it. I really haven't printed it yet. But
Okay.
I'll send it your way once I go dive in. Yeah. And there's a lot of data coming in terms of, our footprint, with global growth of 7-8 billion. Another thing that kind of shocks me is that in my lifetime, in my short lifetime, human population doubles.
Right.
Human population doubled on this planet. So how are we going to sustain this type of growth and maintain this degree of animal consumption, deforestation, water utilization, and air quality? It's just not sustainable.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, we just can't take this for granted.
No, we can't. But I feel like a foot soldier, and we just keep marching.
Yeah, but that's the thing, see, my thing is that, look, we went through this with smoking. There used to be a time the JAMA, Journal of American Medical Association, published cigarette ads in the middle of the journal.
Your doctor smokes Camels.
Yeah. So again, look, it took culturally over a century for us to look at, smoking the way we look at it now. The same thing, I think that paradigm shift that, probably because the media connectivity and the global connectivity, it may happen a little sooner. But what I tell Ange, my wife, jokingly, is that, look, when you and I are old and our grandchildren look up on us and say, whoa, you guys used to go through the fast food places and eat cheeseburgers? What were you thinking? I said, look, when it was my time, I played my role. Look at my Facebook blog.
That's right. So share with us your Facebook blog. It's the Food MD.
I did not sit on the sidelines. So about a year ago, I created this thing, not just to put the information out. To me, it's a learning experience because I learned medicine through repetition. So if I read a study and I share it with people, I do a lecture about it, it kind of stays with me longer. Mm-hmm. So what I did was that, look, Food MD, so it's not a paid site, it's free. I just do it for fun to blog something as data comes out. And surprisingly, it comes as the first hit on Facebook when you type Food MD. And I just share, as information comes in, clinical nutrition, cardiovascular, or even non-cardiovascular papers as they come out. I put the actual link and write 1 or 2 lines about what my thoughts are. And I put it out there, and people comment, people follow, and I just see wherever it goes. And so far, it's going well. I don't sell anything. I have no, to put it in the words of great Michael Greger, it's just a labor of love.
Absolutely. So we have a lot to learn from Dr. Reddy. So you guys check out the Food MD Facebook page. It is very helpful. So is there any last words of encouragement? Or let's say I actually interviewed Dr. Richard Carmona, our previous Surgeon General, on Monday. And I always, it's funny is I think Rich Roll would ask doctors, if you were the Surgeon General, what would you do? I was like, well, Dr. Carmona, since you've been the Surgeon General, that was kind of funny. But if you were the Surgeon General and you had, a little bit more, not quite as anemic powers as they have now, but a little bit more ability to change what's going on in our medical community, what would you think would be the one thing that would really benefit the United States?
Education. Catch them young. I would push till my last breath to educate. I don't want to mandate policies because they never really go well, especially when it comes to lifestyle. I don't want to dictate to doctors or the society as to how they should eat. But if I show them the power of science, especially through medical providers, because I'm saying this based on what I went through. If somebody came to me 3 years ago and told me that arugula lowers your blood pressure, I said, get out of my office. That's what I would told them. I said it lowers blood pressure or lisinopril, but what the heck are you talking about? I would not even given the chance of a 20-second time with that person because I was not educated. That's all there is to it. So that's why if I had the power at a national level, I would revamp medical education. I jokingly tell now, in American medical system, going back to the initial question, those 17 years, 4 years in college. So this is my final kind of, if I can have it my way, I would make it mandatory that you have to have at least a bachelor's in clinical nutrition before you sit for MCAT.
That would be fantastic.
That's where do I get it from? Hippocrates. he who does not know food, how can he know the disease of man?
Right,
So if
absolutely.
you don't know food, you're not be eligible to sit for MCAT. But that's the utopian, worldview of, I know I'm coming across a little naive when I say that, but that's if I had the power, I would do that. I would mandate clinical nutrition before you even enter medical school.
Wow, that would be good.
Yeah, look, at the end of medical school on my training, I was extremely good, and I take pride in those three things. And there's a continued need for those things. How to make a diagnosis, how to prescribe properly, and how to do a procedure properly. So those were the three things that I'm extremely good at. But hypertension, diabetes, obesity, sleep apnea, all of this, almost all of our chronic diseases, you don't need any of them if you really, really get to the bottom of it.
Right.
And there's no training about it. There's absolutely no training. So that's what I would do if I can have it my way, is completely revamp our medical education.
And that's what Dr. Carmona was talking about, was medical education and starting young with children, school education, teaching them about foods. And so then it just becomes a natural progression as they get older. It's like, well, why would I eat that? That's not real food. So that we understand. So
absolutely.
Awesome.
And it's going to take a long time, but we got to do what we can do in our lifetime.
Yeah, in our lifetime. Right? It's going to be.
This is not stopping. This is my battle for the rest of my life. There's no time from that.
I am so impatient too. It's like, I just want to see it done.
I know.
Don't you people understand?
Look, we go to hospitals, there are hospitals in this town. There are hospitals in this town with McDonald's in the main lobby.
Oh my goodness.
So, and I reasoned with them and I said, well, if people, one of the frequent, from an administrative kind of thing, one of the frequent arguments that I hear, not necessarily from here because we haven't gotten that far yet, but from the chatters on the social media and the internet, is that people have a choice, and well, if that's the case, why not stock up hospital cafeterias with Philip Morris or any cigarette brand? Why? People have a choice. Why are we not doing it? Because it took us over 100 years to bring about the paradigm cultural shift. Right. Hopefully, it's not going to take another 100 years with this. Hopefully we can get it done sooner because of the global connectivity and the media and things like what you and I are doing today.
Right, absolutely. And I can only hope so. Well, Dr. Reddy, it has been a wonderful interview, and thank you so much for your time. I know you're very busy, and even just looking at your whiteboard back there, it's just like, it's a lot.
This is where I teach my cardiologist stuff to my fellows and the doctors. So
that's fantastic. So, but thank you again, and we're so honored. And like I said, look him up and connect with Dr. Reddy on FoodMD on Facebook. So very cool. All right.
It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. In health.
In health.